What if I told you that 97% of people who start a business fail within the first 5 years? What if I told you that the 3% who succeed aren't necessarily smarter, better funded, or more talented than the 97% who fail? The difference, my friend, lies in one single quality that separates the victorious from the defeated, the wealthy from the poor, the leaders from the followers. That quality is persistence. You see, persistence isn't just about continuing when things get tough. Any fool can stumble forward blindly. True persistence is an art form, a strategic weapon wielded by those who understand that every challenge is nothing more than a test of your commitment to your burning desire. It's the ability to outlast your problems, to remain standing when everything around you crumbles, and to transform temporary defeat into permanent victory. Tonight, I'm going to share with you the secrets that have enabled ordinary people to achieve extraordinary results. I'm going to show you how to develop the kind of unshakable persistence that makes you untouchable in the face of adversity. But understand this, what I'm about to teach you isn't for the weak-minded or the half-hearted. This is for those who are ready to stop making excuses and start making history. Persistence without purpose is nothing more than stubborn foolishness. The first principle you must master is the art of crystallizing your definite major purpose. You cannot persist in a direction you haven't clearly defined. Your purpose must be so vivid, so compelling, so deeply embedded in your consciousness that it becomes impossible to abandon. Let me tell you about a man who understood this principle better than most. His name was Thomas Edison, and he failed over 10,000 times before he successfully invented the electric light bulb. When asked about his failures, Edison replied, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This wasn't mere optimism speaking. This was a man who had crystallized his purpose so completely that each failure became nothing more than valuable data pointing him toward his inevitable success. You must develop this same mindset. When you face a setback, you don't ask, "Why is this happening to me?" You ask, "What is this teaching me?" You don't see obstacles as roadblocks. You see them as stepping stones. Your persistence becomes scientific, methodical, and absolutely relentless because it's powered by an unshakable belief in your definite major purpose. Here's what you must do. Write down your definite major purpose in one clear, concise sentence. Read it aloud twice daily, once upon waking and once before sleep. Visualize yourself already in possession of your goal. Feel the emotions of success. This daily ritual will embed your purpose so deeply in your subconscious mind that temporary defeats become impossible to accept as permanent failures. But purpose alone isn't enough. You must also develop emotional detachment from the outcomes of individual efforts. The person who becomes emotionally devastated by each temporary setback lacks the stability necessary for long-term persistence. You must learn to divorce your self-worth from the results of any single action or decision. Every great achievement in human history has been born from someone's ability to outlast opposition. Opposition comes in many forms: criticism from others, self-doubt, financial difficulties, technical challenges, and the simple human tendency to quit when things become uncomfortable. The person who masters persistence learns to view opposition not as an enemy to be avoided, but as a sparring partner that makes them stronger. Consider this scenario. You're building a business, and you've just experienced your third consecutive month of losses. Your friends are telling you to quit. Your family is worried about your financial security. Your own mind is whispering doubts about your abilities. This is the moment when 97% of people surrender their dreams. But you are not part of that 97%. You understand that this moment of maximum pressure is precisely when your persistence pays the highest dividends. The secret lies in developing what I call strategic emotional detachment. This doesn't mean you become cold or uncaring. It means you learn to separate your emotional state from your temporary circumstances. You maintain your enthusiasm for your goal while remaining completely unmoved by the opinions of others or the temporary conditions you're experiencing. Here's a practical exercise. When you face criticism or encounter a setback, practice the 24-hour rule. For 24 hours, you are forbidden from making any major decisions or changes to your plans. During this cooling-off period, you analyze the situation objectively. You ask yourself, is this opposition providing valuable feedback that can improve my approach, or is it simply testing my commitment? In most cases, you'll find that the opposition is nothing more than a test of your resolve. You must also learn to embrace what I call productive stubbornness. This is the ability to remain flexible in your methods, while being absolutely rigid in your commitment to your goal. You adapt your strategies based on feedback and results, but you never adapt your fundamental commitment to achieving your definite major purpose. One of the most powerful tools in your persistence arsenal is the strategic use of silence. The person who talks constantly about their plans, their setbacks, and their progress is dissipating their mental energy and inviting unnecessary opposition. The truly persistent person learns when to speak and when to remain silent, when to share their struggles and when to keep their own counsel. Silence serves multiple purposes in your persistence strategy. First, it conserves your mental energy for action rather than explanation. Every moment you spend justifying your decisions to others is a moment stolen from actually implementing those decisions. Second, silence protects your plans from the negative influences of well-meaning but misguided friends and family members who would rather see you safe and mediocre than risk failure in pursuit of greatness. But perhaps most importantly, silence forces you to develop an internal locus of control. When you stop seeking external validation for your persistence, you become truly unstoppable. You no longer need others to believe in your vision because your belief becomes so strong that external opinions become irrelevant. Let me share with you the story of a young woman who wanted to become a novelist. For 3 years, she wrote every morning before her regular job, accumulating rejection letter after rejection letter. She told no one about her writing except her husband. She didn't seek sympathy for her rejections or praise for her efforts. She simply persisted in silence, using each rejection as fuel for her determination. On her 47th submission, she received an acceptance letter. That book became a bestseller, and she went on to become one of the most successful authors of her generation. This is the power of silent persistence. You become like a river that cuts through rock not through force, but through consistent, quiet pressure applied over time. You develop an inner strength that doesn't need external reinforcement because it's sustained by your unwavering commitment to your definite major purpose. Practice this. For the next 30 days, speak about your goals only when absolutely necessary for their achievement. Don't share your setbacks with anyone except those who can provide practical solutions. Don't seek reassurance or validation from others. Instead, find your validation in your consistent daily actions toward your goal. Mental toughness isn't something you're born with. It's something you develop through intentionally putting yourself in challenging situations and learning to thrive under pressure. The person who avoids all difficulty never develops the capacity to handle the inevitable challenges that accompany any worthwhile goal. Think of mental toughness as a muscle that must be exercised regularly to maintain its strength. Just as a physical muscle grows stronger when subjected to progressive resistance, your mental resilience grows stronger when you systematically expose yourself to controlled adversity. Here's a practical approach. Begin each day by doing something that requires you to push through discomfort. This might be a cold shower, a challenging workout, or tackling the most difficult task on your to-do list before you do anything else. These small acts of self-discipline create a compound effect that strengthens your overall persistence capacity. But mental toughness isn't just about enduring discomfort. It's about reframing your relationship with difficulty. The mentally tough person doesn't just survive challenges, they extract maximum value from every difficult experience. They ask themselves, how is this challenge making me stronger? What skills am I developing through this experience? How will overcoming this obstacle serve me in the future? Consider the story of a man who lost his job during an economic recession. Instead of viewing this as a catastrophe, he saw it as an opportunity to start the business he'd always dreamed of. He used his savings to survive while he built his company from the ground up. The skills he developed during those lean months, the relationships he formed, and the mental toughness he built through overcoming daily challenges eventually led him to create a business worth millions of dollars. This is the mindset shift that separates the persistent from the defeated. You stop seeing adversity as something that happens to you and start seeing it as something that happens for you. Every challenge becomes a gift disguised as a problem. Every setback becomes a setup for a comeback. Persistence isn't just about willpower. It's about creating systems that make sustained effort inevitable. The person who relies solely on motivation will fail because motivation is temporary. The person who builds systems for consistent action will succeed because systems are permanent. Your persistence must be systematic, not sporadic. You need to create what I call persistence rituals that ensure you take meaningful action toward your goal every single day, regardless of your mood, circumstances, or energy level. Here's how to build your persistence system first. Identify the smallest possible action you can take daily that moves you toward your goal. This might be writing 1 page, making 5 phone calls, or studying for 30 minutes. The key is that this action must be so small that you can complete it even on your worst days. Second, attach this action to an existing habit. If you always drink coffee in the morning, then you always take your persistence action immediately after your first cup of coffee. This creates what behavioral scientists call a habit stack that makes your persistence automatic rather than optional. Third, track your consistency, not your results. Create a simple calendar where you mark an X for each day you complete your persistence action. Your goal is to create an unbroken chain of X. This visual representation of your consistency becomes a powerful motivator to maintain your streak. But here's the crucial point. Your persistence system must be designed to survive your bad days. Everyone has days when they feel unmotivated, tired, or discouraged. The difference between successful and unsuccessful people isn't that successful people don't have bad days. It's that successful people have systems that ensure they take action even on their bad days. Let me give you a concrete example. A man wanted to become a professional speaker. He created a system where he would practice speaking for just 10 minutes every morning, immediately after brushing his teeth. On days when he felt inspired, he would practice for hours. On days when he felt terrible, he would practice for just 10 minutes. After 2 years of this consistent practice, he had developed the skills and confidence to launch a successful speaking career. This is the power of systematic persistence. You create momentum through consistency, and momentum makes future action easier. Each day you maintain your persistence builds evidence that you are the type of person who follows through on commitments, which strengthens your identity as a persistent person. One of the greatest obstacles to persistence is the human need for external validation. The person who needs others to believe in their dreams before they can believe in themselves will never develop the kind of unshakable persistence necessary for extraordinary achievement. You must learn to become your own source of validation. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or dismissive of feedback. It means you develop an internal compass that guides your decisions based on your definite major purpose rather than the opinions of others. The challenge is that society conditions us from childhood to seek approval from authority figures, peers, and family members. We're taught to value external recognition more than internal satisfaction. But this conditioning is a trap that keeps you dependent on others for your emotional state and your persistence. Here's the truth. The people whose approval you're seeking are usually not qualified to judge your dreams. They haven't walked your path, they don't share your vision, and they often project their own fears and limitations onto your goals. When you allow their opinions to influence your persistence, you're allowing their limitations to become your limitations. Consider this scenario. You're working on an innovative product that could revolutionize your industry. You've been working on it for 18 months, and you're excited about the progress you're making. You share your vision with a friend who immediately points out all the ways it could fail. If you're dependent on external validation, this conversation could destroy your persistence. But if you're internally validated, you listen to any useful feedback while maintaining your commitment to your goal. The key is to develop what I call selective deafness. You become deaf to criticism that doesn't serve your goals while remaining open to feedback that can improve your approach. You stop seeking permission to pursue your dreams and start giving yourself permission to persist despite opposition. Practice this for the next month. Make decisions based solely on whether they move you closer to your definite major purpose. Don't ask for opinions unless you need specific expertise. Don't seek reassurance about your choices. Trust your own judgment and let your results speak for themselves. Every persistent person must master the art of transforming temporary defeat into permanent victory. This isn't about positive thinking or self-deception. It's about developing the analytical skills to extract maximum value from every setback. Temporary defeat is inevitable in any worthwhile pursuit. The question isn't whether you'll face defeats. The question is whether you'll learn to use those defeats as stepping stones to success. The person who masters this skill becomes literally unstoppable because every defeat makes them stronger, wiser, and more determined. The first step is redefining defeat. Most people see defeat as evidence that they should quit. The persistent person sees defeat as evidence that they're pushing the boundaries of their comfort zone. They understand that defeat is often a prerequisite for breakthrough. Here's a practical framework for transforming defeat into victory. When you experience a setback, immediately ask yourself 3 questions. What went wrong? What did I learn? How can I use this information to improve my approach? These questions shift your focus from self-pity to self-improvement. But you must go deeper than surface-level analysis. You must examine not just what happened, but why it happened. You must identify the specific actions, decisions, or circumstances that led to the defeat. This level of analysis transforms defeat from a mysterious force that happens to you into a predictable outcome that you can control. Let me share the story of a man who failed in business 3 times before achieving massive success. After his first failure, he spent months analyzing every decision he'd made. He identified his key mistakes and developed systems to avoid them in the future. After his second failure, he refined his analysis and improved his systems. By his third failure, he had developed such a deep understanding of business principles that his 4th attempt succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. This man didn't succeed despite his failures. He succeeded because of them. Each defeat provided him with invaluable education that couldn't be obtained any other way. His failures became his greatest assets because he learned to extract maximum value from every setback. You must develop this same mindset. Stop seeing defeats as evidence of your inadequacy and start seeing them as evidence of your commitment to growth. The person who never fails is the person who never tries anything challenging. The person who fails repeatedly but learns from each failure is the person who eventually achieves extraordinary success. The most powerful force in achievement is the compound effect of daily persistence. Small actions consistently applied over time create results that seem miraculous to those who don't understand the principle of compound growth. Most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. They expect dramatic results from sporadic efforts, then become discouraged when those results don't materialize. The persistent person understands that extraordinary results come from ordinary actions repeated consistently over extended periods. Consider the mathematics of persistence. If you improve by just 1% each day, you'll be 37 times better at the end of a year. If you get 1% worse each day, you'll be 97% worse at the end of a year. This is why consistency is more important than intensity in the long term. The key is to focus on the process rather than the outcome. You can't control when you'll achieve your goal, but you can control whether you take action toward that goal today. When you make daily action your primary focus, the results become inevitable. Here's a practical application. Instead of setting a goal to become successful, set a goal to take one meaningful action toward my definite major purpose every day for the next year. This shifts your focus from an outcome you can't control to a process you can control. But you must also understand that the compound effect often works invisibly for long periods before becoming visible. You might persist for months or even years without seeing dramatic results, then suddenly experience a breakthrough that seems to come out of nowhere. This breakthrough isn't sudden. It's the visible manifestation of all your previous invisible efforts. The bamboo plant provides a perfect metaphor for this principle. After planting bamboo, you see no visible growth for 4 years. Then, in the 5th year, it grows 90 feet in 90 days. The bamboo wasn't growing for 5 years, then suddenly started growing. It was growing all along, developing its root system underground, preparing for its dramatic emergence. Your persistence works the same way. You might not see visible results for months or years, but your efforts are building an invisible foundation that will eventually support extraordinary visible results. The key is to trust the process and maintain your daily actions even when you can't see immediate progress. Now that you understand the principles of persistence, you must create a personal protocol that ensures you apply these principles consistently in your own life. Your persistence protocol is your blueprint for maintaining sustained effort regardless of circumstances. Your protocol must address 4 key areas: daily actions, weekly reviews, monthly assessments, and annual planning. Each component serves a specific purpose in maintaining your long-term persistence. Your daily actions are the foundation of your persistence. These are the small, consistent activities that move you toward your goal every single day. They must be specific, measurable, and achievable regardless of your mood or circumstances. For example, if your goal is to write a book, your daily action might be to write 500 words. If your goal is to build a business, your daily action might be to make 10 prospecting calls. Your weekly reviews allow you to assess your progress and make necessary adjustments. Every week, you examine what worked, what didn't work, and what you can improve. This prevents you from persisting in ineffective strategies and ensures your efforts are producing results. Your monthly assessments provide a broader perspective on your progress. You examine whether your daily actions are aligned with your definite major purpose and whether you're making meaningful progress toward your goal. This is when you might decide to modify your approach or intensify your efforts. Your annual planning ensures that your persistence is directed toward worthwhile goals. Each year, you reassess your definite major purpose and ensure it still aligns with your values and aspirations. This prevents you from persisting in pursuits that no longer serve you. But your protocol must also include strategies for handling the inevitable challenges to your persistence. You must have predetermined responses to common obstacles, criticism from others, self-doubt, financial pressure, time constraints, and temporary defeats. For example, when you encounter criticism, your protocol might specify that you listen for any useful feedback while maintaining your commitment to your goal. When you experience self-doubt, your protocol might require you to review your past successes and remind yourself of your capabilities. When you face financial pressure, your protocol might involve creating a backup plan while maintaining your primary focus. The ultimate test of your persistence isn't whether you can maintain effort when things are going well. Anyone can persist when success seems inevitable. The ultimate test is whether you can maintain effort when failure seems certain, when everyone around you thinks you're foolish, when you've exhausted your resources, and when you have no guarantee of success. This is the moment when ordinary people quit and extraordinary people are born. This is when persistence transforms from a strategy into an identity, from something you do into something you are. History is filled with examples of people who passed this ultimate test. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination and having no good ideas. His first animation company went bankrupt. He was told Mickey Mouse wouldn't work because women were afraid of mice. But he persisted, and his persistence created an entertainment empire that has brought joy to millions of people for generations. Colonel Sanders was rejected by over 1,000 restaurants before he found one willing to use his chicken recipe. He was 65 years old and living on Social Security when he started Kentucky Fried Chicken. Most people would have given up after a dozen rejections, but Sanders understood that persistence is the price of success. These weren't exceptionally talented people. They were ordinary people who developed extraordinary persistence. They understood that the moment when you want to quit is often the moment when you're closest to breakthrough. But here's what you must understand. The ultimate test isn't a single moment, it's a series of moments over time. It's the accumulation of small choices to continue when continuing seems pointless. It's the daily decision to take action when action feels futile. It's the weekly choice to maintain faith when faith seems foolish. This is why your persistence protocol is so crucial. When you reach the ultimate test, you can't rely on willpower or motivation. You must rely on systems and habits that operate automatically. You must have predetermined responses to the thoughts and feelings that arise during the darkest moments of your journey. Now you have the knowledge. You understand the principles. You know what separates the persistent from the defeated. But knowledge without action is worthless. Understanding without implementation is meaningless. The question isn't whether you know how to persist. The question is whether you will persist. Starting today, you must make a decision that will determine the trajectory of your entire life. You must decide whether you will be part of the 97% who quit when things get difficult, or part of the 3% who persist until they achieve their goals. This decision isn't theoretical, it's practical. It requires you to take specific, measurable actions that demonstrate your commitment to persistence. It requires you to create systems that make sustained effort inevitable. It requires you to develop the mental toughness that allows you to thrive under pressure. Here's what you must do first. Crystallize your definite major purpose. Write it down in one clear, compelling sentence. Make it specific, measurable, and emotionally engaging. This becomes your North Star, the unchanging reference point that guides all your decisions. Second, create your daily persistence action. Identify the smallest possible step you can take every day that moves you toward your goal. Make this action so small that you can complete it even on your worst days. Then attach it to an existing habit to ensure it becomes automatic. Third, develop your persistence protocol. Create predetermined responses to criticism, self-doubt, financial pressure, and temporary defeats. When these challenges arise, you won't need to think about how to respond. You'll simply execute your protocol. Fourth, begin tracking your consistency. Create a simple system for recording your daily actions. Focus on maintaining an unbroken chain of effort rather than measuring immediate results. Let your consistency become your identity. Fifth, practice strategic silence. Stop seeking external validation for your dreams and start validating yourself through consistent action. Share your goals only with those who can provide practical support or expertise. But understand this persistence is not a destination, it's a way of life. It's not something you do temporarily until you achieve your goal. It's something you become permanently. The person who develops true persistence becomes unstoppable not just in their current pursuit, but in every future challenge they face. The opportunity before you isn't just to achieve your current goal. It's to become the type of person who achieves whatever they set their mind to. It's to develop a character so strong that failure becomes impossible, not because you won't face challenges, but because you'll outlast every challenge. The choice is yours. You can continue living like the 97%, making excuses, seeking sympathy, and accepting mediocrity. Or you can join the 3% who understand that persistence isn't just about reaching your destination. It's about becoming worthy of your destination. The time for excuses has ended. The time for action has begun. The time for persistence is now. Your dreams are waiting. Your destiny is calling. Your future is demanding that you become the person capable of achieving it. The only question that remains is this: are you ready to answer that call with the unshakable persistence that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary achievers? The choice is yours. The power is within you. The time is now. Begin today, persist tomorrow, and continue until you win. Because in the end, persistence isn't just about achieving your goals. It's about becoming the person you were meant to be